That day, February 26, 1920, began just like any other day for the hundreds upon hundreds of workers at the Mirro Aluminum Goods Manufacturing Company on Washington Street in Manitowoc. That was except for the six girls, Addie Holtz, Esther Rush, Josephine Schleiter, Pauline Komorowski, Frances Budish, and Emily Becker, for that day would be their last. The girls, along with some 200 other girls, reported for work at 6 a.m. to the satin finishing room on the third floor of the Mammoth Aluminum Goods plant. For the next 4 hours, everything appeared to be normal in the satin finishing room. The work continued as usual. Their basic job involved the finishing of the aluminum products, the first step undertaken after fabrication to eliminate scratches, pits, and other superficial blemishes resulting from the manufacturing process. This was achieved by various grinding and polishing operations that remove the high spots of rough surfaces by the cutting action of the abrasive. When this was done, chemicals could be used to complete the finishing process. Just after 10 a.m., an enormous explosion occurred in the blower system located just above the girls' heads. The massive explosion was heard throughout the city of Manitowoc as the force of the blast blew out and shattered most of the windows on the third floor of the building. The explosion would have been bad enough, but almost instantly, sparks from the explosion ignited the chemical fumes, causing the entire room to be involved in a sheet of flames. Within seconds, the flames covered the girls, igniting their hair and clothing. The most seriously injured were the girls sitting directly under the blower system. Those that were able ran for the exit door, causing congestion as they tried to escape the burning room. Others, some of those, their clothes still on fire, chose to escape the burning room by leaping from the now shattered third floor windows. Carl Meyer, a goods employee on the first floor, heard the explosion and, thinking it came from outside, went outside to see what had happened. Just as he got outside, he looked up and saw a young woman jump from the third floor onto the sidewalk by his side. As he was bending down to help the jumper, a second girl jumped from the third floor, landing on both Meyer and the one he was trying to help. This broke the girl's fall and did not injure Meyer. Officers and employees of the company rushed to the scene to give aid to the seriously injured. Within minutes, police and fire personnel were on the scene giving aid to the most seriously burned. The entire basement floor of Holy Family Hospital became the center of activity as the burned and injured were brought in by ambulance. Almost every doctor in the city was called in to help the suffering of the many burn victims. No less than 16 girls received what would be considered serious burns, with scores of others receiving minor burns and injuries. The first to succumb to her burns was 30-year-old Addie Holtz, daughter of John and Frederica Holtz. Addie lived at 423 North 5th Street with her parents and had been an employee of the goods for 7 years. She is believed to be the second victim that jumped from the third floor window that morning. Her death was followed by 4 more of the most seriously burned. Esther Rush, age 20, of Valders. She was the daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Otto Rush and had been an employee of the goods for only 8 weeks. Josephine Schleiter, age 19, lived with her parents at 1125 South 14th Street and had been employed by the company for 4 years. Pauline Komorowski, age 21, since the death of her mother, roomed with a friend on South 17th Street and had been employed by the Goods for 5 years. Frances Budish, age 23, was the daughter of Andrew and Magdalena Budish, had received extensive burns to both her body and head. She had been employed at the Goods for 7 years. It would be a little over a week before the sixth and last victim of the explosion and fire succumbed to her burns. Emily Becker would linger on for 10 days, passing away on March 8th. Emily had received severe burns to both her arms and legs, and at one time, amputation of an arm and a leg was considered in hopes of saving her life. As time went on, her condition did not improve and amputation did not happen. Emily was 18 years of age and lived with her parents at 1130 South 9th Street and had been employed at the Goods for 4.5 years. You might have noticed that many of the girls burned and injured in the incident were only in their early teens when they began working at the Goods, some as young as 13. This was a common practice in the early 1900s. Young girls, such as these in the finishing department, were expected to contribute to the family income after they had completed 8th grade. Of course, an investigation of the cause of the explosion and fire was undertaken almost immediately after the victims were removed from the scene, so that it did not look as if someone was trying to cover up the actual cause of the tragedy. Hugo Vitz, General Superintendent of the Aluminum Goods, called in Mr. C.W. Kensington, a representative of the State Industrial Commission, to head the investigation. By the following day, it was determined that a wire in the blower system had caused a spark that ignited the explosion and fire. The wire should not have been in that system, and their guess was that it had broken off and was left by a wire brush used to clean the ducts leading to the blower fan. The wire may have been drawn into the fan by the strong force of the system. The system had been installed as a protection to the health and comfort of the employees of the company. It's hard to say if the accident could have been avoided. No one would have believed that a small wire from a cleaning brush could have caused such a massive explosion. But I'm sure that was of little comfort to the 6 young ladies who died as a result of the accident, or the many others who would suffer for the rest of their lives from their burns. Within days of the tragic event, the funerals of the 6 ladies began. 3 of them, Pauline Komorowski, Frances Budish, and Emily Becker, would find their final resting place at St. Mary's Cemetery located at South 18th and Division Street. Josephine Schischlater was buried at Calvary Cemetery located at South 10th and Vivon. Addie Holtz was laid to rest at Manitowoc's Evergreen Cemetery. The only one buried outside the city of Manitowoc was the Valders girl, Esther Rush, who was buried in Trinity Lutheran Church, Liberty Township. It is unknown if the families of the victims received any compensation for suffering the loss of their loved ones. More than likely, the aluminum goods had insurance to cover any loss to their building, but if that extended to their employees is unknown. Strangely, for such a tragic event in Manitowoc's history, its story received little attention in the local papers after the first couple of days. Only a couple of small articles could be found after February 27th. Possibly this was with a little push from the aluminum goods, that hoped the story would die a quick death, a tragic ending to the lives of 6 lovely ladies from Manitowoc. Thank you for watching the latest story on Manitowoc's History Review. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks again.